Hey guys, this is Learning Target 11, Factoring Quadratics Part 1. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about how to go from standard form and go back to factored form. So really, it's just going backwards from what we did last week. If you remember from last week, we started with our quadratic was in factored form here. We multiplied the two binomials, and then our final answer would be the equation in standard form. And so just going to work backwards from there. And in this video, we're going to talk about how you can use the box method, just like we did last week, but really just working backwards. All right. So if you remember from the box method last week, we ended up with some numbers and terms in here. We would combine some like terms, and then we would have it in standard form. So just going to kind of get into it here, a way that you can use this. So if this is our equation, or this would technically be an expression because there's no equal sign, but here's our expression, x squared. We know that went here. And then this 12 right here, that was down here. Okay. So essentially what we're trying to find, because we're trying to go to factored form, is we want to try to figure out what are these outside terms going to be. Okay, and when we have those, we've got our answer. And so really the only thing that can give us x squared is going to be an x and an x. So we know that has to be true. We also know that whatever numbers we choose here, whatever numbers are going to go here, have to multiply to equal 12. Okay, so we can start thinking about numbers that would multiply to equal 12, and we can list that just kind of in a factor list like we've done in the past. So what numbers would give us positive 12 when we multiply? Well, 1 and 12, right? Another possibility would be negative 1 and negative 12. Another possibility would be 6 and 2. Negative 6, negative 2, right? Because a negative multiplied by a negative. We could do 4 and 3, and we could do negative 4 and negative 3. So those would be all the possibilities that we could multiply that would give us this positive 12. Well, we've got to pick one pair of these, and you may have kind of thought about it already. Well, what pair do we choose? Well, remember, that's this right here. We want, if you remember from last week, we would circle this. What do we want? We want these to add up to equal this middle term, right? So we would search through our list, what numbers, when we add them up, would equal positive 7. That's this one right here. So this would be the only pair of factors that would multiply to equal 12 and then would also add up to a positive 7. And so that's the numbers we would put in there. And it doesn't matter the order. You can put the 4 here. Whoops. You can put the 4 here, or you could put it down here, and then also the same thing the other way. You could put the 4 here and the 3 here. It doesn't matter because it's commutative. Okay, so then we would know that we have what we want. We have 4x here, and then we would have 3x here. And really, that's okay if you put that there, but once you have these, you have your answer. So we would write that as x plus 4 and x plus 3. Okay, so this would be in factored form, and that's what we want. Okay, let's try another one. All right, so at any point, feel free to pause it, give it a try on your own, you can. All right, so we know we've got x squared, we've got 15, okay, and again, we want our numbers to multiply to equal here and here, and then whatever we add up is going to equal that middle term. So we know this is going to be x, and this is going to be x. That would give us x squared. And we want numbers that are going to multiply to equal 15. All right, so make a sum here, positive 15. We could do 5 and 3. We could do negative 5, negative 3. We could do 1 and 15. And we could do negative 1 and negative 15. So those would all give us positive 15 if we multiply. And again, we want these two terms to add up to equal a negative 8x, right? So which of these would equal a negative 8 when you add them together? It's going to be this one right here. All right, so we know that we want this to be negative 5, and we want this to be negative 3. And then that's going to give us what we want. And you can always check to see, right? When you add these up, do you get -8? Yes, you do, so it works. Okay, so this would be x minus 5 and x minus 3. Okay, and you can always check too. You could just, multiply these out and see if you get the same answer. You could put them both into Desmos and see if you get the same quadratic function in there when you put them in. So different ways that you can check to make sure you got it. Okay. All right, here's another example. So we've got our x squared here. We've got our -14 here. All right, so we know we've got to have an x and an x. Numbers that are going to multiply to -14. So -14 multiplied by 1. +14 multiplied by -1 would work. We know that 7 and -2 would work. And we also know that -7 and +2 would give us a -14. All right, so which ones of those is going to add up to give me a positive 5x? When I add them together, that's going to be this one. All right, so that would give me a positive middle term. All right, so then we'll put that in, 7 and -2, and we can go ahead and multiply that out just to check. So x and 7 multiplied together would be 7x, and -2 multiplied by x would be -2x. And we can see that if we were to put those together, that would give us a positive 5 and also a -14. Okay, so our factored form would be x minus 2 and x plus 7. And again, you're probably noticing sometimes I put this one first, sometimes I put this one. It doesn't matter. You can put the x plus 7 here and the x minus 2 there. It doesn't matter. Multiplication is commutative. All right, last example. How about if they're both negative terms here? Okay, so again, we know that this would be x squared. We know this would be -10. All right, so only possibility here is if x is multiplied by x. We know that has to be there. And then we're looking for numbers that are going to multiply to -10. So let's list those out. We've got -10, +1. We've got 10, -1. We've got 5, -2. And squeeze this in here. We've got -5 and +2. So those would all work. Which one is going to add up? Which one is going to add up to a -3? It's going to be this one way down here that's kind of scrunched in there. -5 and +2. So -5 and +2. And we could multiply these just to check it. -5x. 2 multiplied by x is 2x. And yep, if we put a -5 and a +2 together, add those together, we would get -3, which would be that middle term. And they would also give us the -10 if we multiply. So x plus 2 and x minus 5. That would be in factored form. Okay, so just a little factoring like you did in previous grades, and then just kind of adding whatever these add up to is going to give us our middle term. Okay, so, and you may be thinking to yourself, do I have to always list all the factors? What if I can see it right away? I mean, maybe the first couple just list the factors just to make sure. And, like I said, when you finish, you can always, do like last week's learning targets. You could actually multiply the binomials and see if it does give you this in standard form like it should. Okay, so go ahead and give the practice a try here. Thanks.